nation. I'm a soldier, won't surrender. Faith is like a fire that never burns to embers. The voice of the unheard. Love is the answer.
I gotta speak it, believe it, that's how I feel inside.
I can't sit here quiet.
You can take my heart, you can take my breath when you pry it from my cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. Can you hear me? Are you listening? Sleeping and the shadows could be making history. Through the fire, on the water, used to be a slave, but now you are a conqueror.
They can take my heart, they can take my breath when they pry it from my cold dead chest.
This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us. Up, 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 up. We're rising up, 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 up. Rising up, 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 up. We're rising up, 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 up. Rising up, 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 up. We're rising up, 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 up. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance. You can't resist us. This is how we rise up. Heavy as a hurricane, louder than a freight train. This is how we rise up. Heart is beating faster, feels like thunder. Magic static, call me a fanatic. It's our world, they can never have it. This is how we rise up. It's our resistance, you can't resist us.
And welcome everyone to another episode of Straight Talk with Joe Vollano. I am glad you are all here tonight. Obviously, another election in the books, so we'll cover that. We'll cover the results of that, and we'll talk about what it means for the city moving forward and what it means for all of us here in the great city of Meriden. So we'll cover all that. We'll talk about obviously some recounts coming up. So we got a lot, and then of course we're going to talk about what we all witnessed last week with the police body cameras. We need to get more into that, and of course then we'll answer some of your questions. I know I got a lot of emails since the beginning of last week, so we got a ton of emails to go through, of course, and your comments as well. But let's go through the formalities first. For all those of you who are new to the program, I am Joe Vollano. I'm your host, your guiding light through the craziness that seems to be going on in the city of Meriden. And really, some of the same old going on in the city of Meriden. As we start going through election results, we'll see a common theme. And it's been a common theme for years and over a decade since I've been paying attention to what's going on here in Meriden. But we'll get into those numbers. We're going to dive into them. But of course, this show only works best when you are all involved. So if you want to call in, 203-805-2520, or you can email us, straighttalkjv@gmail.com. And of course, if you're on any of the social media platforms, whether Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, obviously the message boards are all open. Feel free to dive in there and put your comments in there, and I read them as we go along here. But I know a lot of you guys love email, apparently. So, listen, obviously, we talked about, we had an election last Tuesday. most people in my email is like, they feel defeated. But you can't feel really defeated. All right, we can't do it. Is it the results we wanted? No. No, it's not. But listen, the great thing about this country is that we have elections. Fair, honest elections. So, and listen, Election Day is my favorite day of the year because anything is possible on Election Day. It's really a referendum on who got their messages out there and whether or not the public that at least that are going to vote are in agreement with you. Living in a liberal city that we do, where only 27% of the voting public actually comes out, which is very sad and depressing in and of itself. Listen, it's our job, or the candidates' jobs, to go out there and make sure that they are touching as many hands as possible and making sure they are face-to-face with voters. That is the most important job of a candidate. And that is the best way to get yourself over the line. Now, a lot of these races were close. And trust me, I know how a lot of these candidates feel coming within, 50 votes. That's literally 25 people you needed to persuade. And I know what's happening right now this week. You have a lot of these campaigns that are going through everything that they did and saying, you know what could we have done differently to grasp that few amount of votes that we needed to flop? And I understand it. And again, I give credit to every candidate that goes out there and puts, the time and effort in there to try to win an election, either side, to promote your values and your agenda. So it takes a lot of work. And again, this is one of the greatest things, which is why I love Election Day. Anything could happen. Donald Trump was a prime example of that in 2016. Nobody gave him a chance. But the people will come out, and if you strike a chord with them, they will come out and vote for you. So, looking at the numbers for this past election, it's a lot of the same old. As we go through them, I'm going to show you what it was, previous years to what it was this year, and it's literally it's like a carbon copy. I mean, obviously, some candidates did a little bit better than they did previously, and vice versa. So we'll go through those two. But listen, you can't feel defeated though. Even if we lost, if the candidates you wanted lost, we can't feel defeated. We still must move on. There's still things going on in the city that we need to address. And that's going to continue to move on, no matter who got elected. Most of the emails that I got this week had nothing to do with the election per se, but was basically is my relationship with the PD any different than a week and a half ago before all this happened? Now listen, everyone knows I have been a huge, and I am a huge police supporter. The job they go out there and do on a daily basis is the most thankless job. Because like I always say, they're doing God's work out there for unthankful people. And all they do is get attacked. But on the other hand, we witnessed with our own eyes via body camera footage something that was disturbing to me and to many others, where we saw the city manager get special treatment because of who he is. And that's disturbing to me. What's really disturbing to me is that the same politicians that have been screaming and yelling for the last couple of years about there being two justice systems are dead silent. Are dead silent. Where is the NAACP right now? Where is Sonia Jelks right now? Where is LaRue Graham right now? Where are all these people that told us that there was a two-tier justice system in our country? And they have all come out and said, no, we didn't see anything wrong here. They acted perfectly fine. Nah, all good. Nothing to see here. Move along. We all know that's BS. But why? Why all of a sudden now all of our social justice warriors are all dead silent? Because it was one of theirs? Because it was one of their people that was getting the special treatment. So they're basically saying is that they're all full of crap. Is that this whole thing they've been talking about for the last couple of years with all this social justice nonsense was all bullshit. Because now they're silent. Now our city council, Sonia Jelks specifically, is saying, nothing to see here. Everything was done fine. I'm very happy with the way they handled it. When we all know none of us would get that kind of treatment. So when all these politicians start talking about two-tier justice systems, tell them to save their breath. Because they only care when it's not for they only care when it's for one of them. When it's for one of them, it's all fine and dandy. If that happened to anybody else, they'd be screaming from the hilltops. Like I said, a lot of these organizations have been very quiet. Specifically, the NAACP, who should be outraged after watching that video. But, like I said, nothing to see here. Now, does this make my relationship with the police department any different? No, I hope not. I think they know very well who I am and what I believe, and I believe in fairness. So, yes, am I questioning the police department? Yes. Am I demanding that the chief of police, Chief Rosado, come out and explain this? Yes. Now, I've spoken to several different police officers in different areas, in different cities. And some of them have enlightened me into some of it. You know, I've been enlightened in some parts of it. I could understand where they're coming from. For instance, when they kept telling him that they were giving him more and more chances. And one of the officers turned around and said, well, listen, with the police accountability bill, when things get physical, it's always blamed on the police department as they didn't do enough to calm the situation down. And they pointed out to me that while watching the video, Tim Coon said he wasn't going to the effing hospital. And the way he was saying, and the more irritated he was getting, made you come to the conclusion, and again, while watching it again, I understand what they're saying, is that if they attempted to get him on that stretcher, things were probably going to get physical. And that would have turned a bad situation even worse. But at the same time, for me, I watched a suspect get into his car unsupervised. And who knows what he has in that car? Because he was given special treatment because he was a city manager. I watched police officers in the CAD report say that they got a key and that let him into the house, when that clearly was not the case. I saw a police report or a CAD report come out and say they found him sleeping. They were nowhere to say he was heavily intoxicated. So I am sorry if these things raise red flags with me. It is on the police department now to clarify it. And I am hoping that the police department does not turn into the Board of Ed. I hope they are not turning into City Hall, where they're just going to turn around and say, nothing, no comment. The only reason why the police department would not be able to comment right now is if there was an ongoing investigation. And as far as I'm told, there is no investigation right now. So it should be all fair game. So now the police department has no reason not to come on and explain what happened. Now, they could do that two different ways. They could come here on the show. We could watch the video together. And either if Captain Manone wants to come on and walk us through it, if Chief Rosado wants to come on and walk us through it, if any of the deputy chiefs want to come on and walk us through it and explain to us why police are doing what they're doing and why and how they're doing it now, that would ease, I think, a lot of the tensions here and answer a lot of the questions. But when you're quiet and you're silent on the matter and you don't want to discuss it and you're just hoping that you could just be quiet and it'll go away, well, then no, that's just one more red flag. Why? Why won't you talk about it? There's nothing holding you back. And it's something we are going to be going after. We demand answers. We're entitled to answers. We're entitled to an explanation on why we witnessed someone getting special treatment because of their position. The officer even said it. You have to have confidence. Confidence in our system of government is vital. If you don't have confidence in any part of our government, it leads to bad situations in the long run. It leads to distrust. It leads to a lot of different conversations that most don't want to have, but are going to be needed to have. Now, I don't like being put in this position. I don't like being put in the position of having to question our police department because, again, I just absolutely love them all and what they do. But I also have a responsibility to you, to myself, and for our community to question the police department when we see situations like this. Just because over the last couple of years, we've had a city council going on the war path against our police department. saying that there is a two-level justice system in America and in the city. But it's just rich that these same people are shutting the hell up now and saying there's nothing wrong here. When everyone that watched it knows that's not true. So we're going to continue on with this. And I'm going to meet with the chief on Thursday during his open hours. And I suggest everybody set up an appointment with Chief Rosado on Thursday during his open office hours that starts at 2 o'clock. And we should all be asking the question, why? Would you have gotten that treat? Would you have gotten your house broken into by the police department? No. No. The answer is no. Because it's a horrible procedure. It's a horrible policy, even if there was one. Because again, you have no idea who's behind that door. And like I said before, what happens if he did come home with somebody and they had the keys to the house and they went inside and they were on drugs or they were heavily intoxicated? And what if they took the keys and went into the house and locked the door behind them and accidentally locked him Coon out? So let's say there's someone behind that door and they hear someone trying to break in and there's a gun in the house. And what happens if that person all of a sudden starts shooting through the door? Then we have a whole different set of circumstances here. So, and again, that puts so much unnecessary risk. They could have just taken him to the hospital and called it a day. Where's the CRB on this? There's no investigation. There's no investigation here. So why is the CRB not taking this matter up? But I see CRB members out on social media. Oh, when did you guys all become experts in police tactics and everything else? We're not. But we can witness it with our own eyes and we can see that there's a double standard going on right here. Why is the CRB not taking this up? Why are they not demanding to have answers because of this video? Again, it is just, the silence is deafening from our far left social justice warriors. The silence is absolutely deafening because it's in favor of one of theirs. It's in favor of one of their peeps. You're absolutely right, Sue. If it was anybody else, we'd be in jail or in the hospital. So unless our social justice warriors decide that they're going to come out of the woodwork and start supporting us and finding answers, you've lost all credibility moving forward. I just want you to shut the hell up. Because every single time that you say something, I'm going to refer right back to today, where you said nothing, which means you're complicit and you're perfectly fine with what happened. So we'll get more into that in the future, but let's dive into what happened last Tuesday. Let me pull up my numbers here. We're going to go through each race because I think it's important that we do go through the races. Okay. So let's start off with the Marisons. That's top of the list. All right. So we have Mayor Scarpati versus Horrigan. 4,869 to 2,993. So about an 1869. So about 1,700 votes. So Kevin did a lot better than he did 2 years ago. I believe he won by like 1,100 last time around. So reasons why. We're going to speculate because obviously we don't know who these voters are. I would say there's a couple of things that played into it. One, I think Kurt Horrigan coming in as a placeholder might have hurt him a little bit, and he didn't come out swinging. But again, I think Kurt ran a pretty good race. The mayor, obviously a very good speaker, and obviously most people already know who he is. So having that at your back is always a good thing. But again, I think Kurt ran a pretty good race. Obviously, there's always things you wish you could do better. But, again, kudos to Kurt. First time running in politics ever, from what I remember. Still ran a decent race. And again, he should not feel bad at all. I think he went out there. He gave people an option. He gave people another choice in a different direction. And listen, for the voters to come out, listen, they didn't agree with us. They didn't agree. And listen, that doesn't mean that we need to stop and go away. And I hope Kurt doesn't stop and just go away. So, I mean, that's what Democrats do. Like, if you notice, every Democrat, every time a Republican says something, they'll turn around, oh, but you lost an election, you lost this, you lost that. And what does that mean? That means nothing. So every time you lose, you should quit. You should not stop believing, pushing what you believe, pushing the truth. Just because the people aren't awake enough yet to see it, or their head's so far up their ass they can't see it, doesn't mean you stop. That's why, listen, this is what, oh God, how many elections have I done over the years? This is I'm 45, so this is my 32nd election. This is my 32nd election that I've played some part in for a candidate. Dating all the way back to East Haven, to Rob Norman. Rob Norman was, he wasn't, okay. My very first that I did anything for, and I apologize for it already, I was young, was Mike Lawler. Mike Lawler was a state rep for East Haven, lived around the corner from my house. Very nice guy back in the day. Now he's just a crazy liberal. I mean, like crazy left-wing liberal. Back in the day, he was much more sensible. And I was, 11, 12? And I passed his cards around the neighborhood. And he's a starch Democrat. I didn't know any better, so I apologize. But that was my first. My first real campaign where I actually got involved was Rob Norman, who was a Republican mayor in East Haven. He was mayor for a while. Was my very first real campaign. But listen, I've been doing this for years and decades, and I've seen a lot of winners. I've seen a lot of losers. Obviously, when you're in New Haven, when you're outnumbered 10-1, when you're here in Meriden, when you're outnumbered 2-1, almost 3-1. Listen, it's tough. It's tough. I'll be and I said at the beginning of the show. And I've said it always. If you want to win in the city of Meriden, you have to work 10 times harder than any Democrat. Because the D after their name means a lot. And you're fighting that. You're really not fighting the person. You're fighting the D. And it can be frustrating. And I understand that people do get frustrated by it. But take your principles, take your values that you have, and just share them. If you win, you win. If you don't, you continue on. Again, it's not something we're going to sit here and get crazily upset about. We just have to work a little bit harder and harder and harder. And it never ends. Even if you win, it never ends. Once you win, it gets even harder, actually. But I love when all these people turn around. I think people turn around and think that because you lose, you should just disappear. I mean, if that was the case, Mike Rohde, and Mike Rohde's the first one to say it. Joe, did you lose 3 times? Rohde, I don't care if I lost 100 times. I don't care. But at the same time, if he's going by that, he lost. So shouldn't he have just gone away? And listen, hopefully, God willing, this is to be the last time we ever see Rohde's name on a ballot anyways. God willing. So I take comfort in that, if nothing else, is that we probably won't see Rohde's name on another ballot. Like I said, fingers crossed. Here's join Meriden Pride today. Let's make a change in Meriden. What is Meriden Pride? I probably have a good idea, but I'm sure you're going to explain it. And I think Republicans struggled with was the candidates they had. Listen, I think the candidates did pretty good. And I disagree that Kurt did not perform. Kurt did not perform well at the debate. I disagree with that. I think you saw a first-time candidate going up there. He did his studying, he did his notes, and he was ready to go. When you put him against someone like Kevin Scarpati, who's should know everything there possibly is going on since he's been here so long, and who is a very good speaker. I mean, there would have been a couple of times I would have smacked him back. I would have liked to see Kurt smack him back and put him on the defensive. But that's not Kurt. Kurt doesn't have that. Well, of course he was. Of course he was reading. Again, first time ever in a debate. He was prepared. He was reading. He was prepared. He was the only one that was prepared for that debate. He was the only one that gave solutions. So I think the problem with most people in local politics, they think that these politicians are seasoned politicians. I think some of you might think that these guys, this is what they do all day. There's a lot of information to go through. And again, I love these. Brendan, I love people like you who think that this is what they do. They don't sit there and study this stuff. There's so much to study. While they're also doing door knocking and everything. Sure, I love the fact that he had the binder. And I love the fact that he was ready to answer the question. I don't care if he was reading it at all. That tells me he's prepared. That's what that tells me. They're not professional politicians. Kevin Scarpati is a professional politician. Kurt Horrigan is not. And I think that was one of his biggest strengths. But let's be honest, Brendan. You didn't like what he had to say to begin with. So he could have memorized every line and said it, and you still would be sitting here bitching about it. That's what I figured it was. And best of luck with you on the group. But you didn't agree with Kurt Horrigan, so it wouldn't have mattered anything that he said. Let's be honest with each other. We don't blow smoke up each other's asses around here. That's not what we do. So, well, again, because you're thinking that, he's a professional and he's not. I think I thought you'd be more, if that's where you're coming from, I think you'd be more upset about Kevin's delivery, where he just used platitudes and walked around everything. I think I would have been more upset about. But like I said, you agree with him, therefore you don't worry about it. All right, so Council Area 1. Sonia Jokes and Isabel Kaiser. Listen, this district always irritates the crap out of me. Because they have the most voting places. They have 4. There's 4 places where they can vote. And the reason why that is because it's the inner city. And people keep saying, well, there's no easy, accessible way of getting to the polling places. So they gave them 4. Most areas only have 3. You have 4. And you can walk to any of them. And still, only 1,000 people came out and voted. Now, this is what irritates me about Area 1. Because it's the most predictable area out of anywhere in the city. I saw a list of 1,055 people that vote every single time. There's a list of, if you just grab the numbers, 1,055 people vote every single year in every election in Area 1. And 1,025 people did just that. That's it. That's it. The majority leader of our city's council gets elected with 600 votes. 600. That's it. It's beyond sad. It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic that there are only 1,000 people that vote in that area combined. It's really sad. And so now we're stuck with Sonia Jokes for another 4 years. Unless she decides to move to Georgia, which God willing, and I'll pay for your move if you like. Just let me know. Just let me know when it is, and I'll be more than happy to pay for it. And I'll wish you farewell. So, but we'll see what happens. But again, she's already lost one thing. She can't complain about social justice stuff anymore. That's a loser for her now. That's a loser. So I don't want to hear a single word out of her mouth when it comes to the police department and her two-tier justice system. Her and LaRue Graham need to just shut up now. You had your opportunity, and you guys came out and said there was nothing wrong. So now you've lost all credibility. If anything positive comes out of it, we don't have to hear about that nonsense anymore. This one was the most depressing for me. And I'll say Area 2. Just because, listen, I know Dan put a lot of work into it. And again, Dan is someone who's at every single meeting. Every single meeting. And I thought this was his year. But Joe Scaramuzzo, 1,082 votes to 960. So it is disappointing. I mean, it definitely was a shocker to me. I thought Dan did enough to get him over the line, but it turned out it was not. And again, this is just one of those things where, you respect the will of the voters, and they came out, and slight numbers more came out for Joe. Now, listen, we had Joe here, and Joe sat here for 2 hours while we discussed a lot of topics around the city and overseas. And I like Joe. I think Joe is a very good guy. I think, as I've said before, my huge concern with Joe is that while he talks about being independent and being his own person, I have seen him now during that debate talk out of both sides of his mouth. As in, he didn't want to piss the Democrats off. And again, and I said that while he was here, can you be a minority in the majority? Now, the council is very split because Republicans, if we're going to look at the positives of it, we did pick up a seat. Republicans picked up a seat, so it makes it now 7-5. That means their supermajority is out the window. There is no more supermajorities. And again, we'll find out how strong of a mayor Kevin wants to be. How strong of a mayor does Scarpati want to be? Because now Scarpati does have the option to veto things. And they stick. And they can stick if he has Republican support. So now we're going to find out just how dependent Kevin Scarpati is to the Democrats. Because he can't afford to piss them off. Listen, he got the nomination for the Democrats at the very last second, where normally he would have had it months before. But people like Sonia Jelks don't like him. And she wants one of their own. So now Kevin is going to be put to the test. And what is he going to be willing to veto? And if Republicans get behind him, what kind of strain does that put on him and the Democrats in the city council and in the city? So that's going to be very interesting to watch. It will be very interesting to watch. But at the same time, Joe Scaramuzo, if he is true to his word of what he said here, he also can break with his party, because a lot of what he said, I think Republicans and conservatives agree on. I think a lot of what he talked about here, Republicans and conservatives can't get on board with that. And he is often what the Democrats in the council believe. So we'll see how independent he is. And if he decides to join with Republicans on certain things and makes it a 6-6 tie, again, this is why the mayor's race was so important this year. What will the mayor do? Will the mayor have to pick sides? And will he have to pledge his allegiance to the Democrats? Because if he doesn't, they'll throw him out in 2 years. It's something that's going to be very interesting to watch. Let's see how unaffiliated you are now. See how independent you are. And we'll tell by how many things you veto. So again, so Joe won that one. It was again disappointing for Dan. And again, Dan ran a great race. Dan was knocking on doors every single day. He did everything he needed to do. And I don't think there's anything else Dan could have done. So Area 3. This is my area, which where I preside. Crystal Blake, 1214. Mike Zakaruski, 1289. So Zakaruski wins it by 75 votes. So Republicans have a full lock on Area 3. We have Dan Burnett as the other Republican in the district. And now we have Mike Zakaruski, who ran a great race. And Mike Zakaruski had an amazing debate. I don't think anyone could overlook that. He had a great debate. He was very articulate. He knew exactly what he wanted to say. He knew exactly what the city was going through, especially when it came to the police department and juvenile crime. So I think he ran a great campaign. Congratulations to him. He is, again, a Republican. It is a seat gained. He knocked off Crystal Blake. So, again, leads us in an area where now it makes it a 7-5 and it breaks that supermajority, which I think was important. Then we got Area 4. And like I said, Area 4, listen, you people are screwed either way. I really felt bad for you guys. But again, this one here is really eye-catching onto what a D could do for your name. And so Christian Misner got 994 votes, and Mike Carabetta got 1055. So Republicans hold on to that seat, with Mike Carabetta claiming victory on that. But he only won it by, 55? So 60-something votes. And she did nothing. She did nothing. That just shows you what the D does for her name. I can only imagine what would have happened if she actually went out there and worked for it. That would have been scary. That would have been 994 votes for doing nothing, for shutting up. That shows you what Republicans are up against in this city. Area 4 is South Meriden. So it just shows you what Republicans are up against. And it just shows you that people will just vote the party line. Because Kristen said nothing. Absolutely nothing. And she got 994 votes. You live near the Turnpike, so you're in Area 2. Did you not vote? Brendan, you can't be up here talking garbage. You cannot be sitting here talking garbage and not even know what area you are in or if you even friggin' voted. Then where'd you vote? Where did you vote? How do you not know what area you're in? She knocked doors. Listen, I know a lot of people in South Meriden never freaking saw her. Never saw her. In a debate, she literally answered the first question, which I don't even think was an actual response, and then shut up the entire time. She knocked doors. She knocked doors. You're killing me, Craig. Killing me. All right. At large. This one was actually, again, this one kills me. How Rhodey gets elected blows my mind. I'm taking it, it's all the old timers. It has to be. It really does. It has to be all the old timers that are just so used to seeing his name up there. Because he is a friggin' train wreck. He's a train wreck in council. He's a train wreck online. It's crazy to me how he gets elected. Chad Cardillo was the top vote getter. And that one actually shocked me a little bit, but then it didn't. Because again, I know Chad had some extra support. I know I supported him. I like Chad. Listen, is he a liberal? Yeah. But he's honest. And you can actually have a conversation with him. You can actually have a conversation with him. A reasonable conversation. Are you going to agree with everything? No. No, you're not. But that's okay. I still think, given who we had, I think him and Elaine were the best choice. Now, Elaine, really, I think Elaine definitely underperformed. And it could be various reasons on why that is. But, obviously Chad Cardell had the number one with 3,941 votes. And then somehow Mike Rohde with 3,889. I don't know how that is. Where's Sean's? Hold on. Here he is. 2. So Sean had 3,714, which is pretty respectable. And then you have Elaine Carriotti had 3,457. So, and we could dive into the many reasons why I believe these numbers turned out the way they are. And I will say what it has in the future. And again, putting my personal beliefs aside, because we don't care, I go by what I see. And like I said, Mike Rohde, I think, will be gone in a year, 2 years. I don't see him finishing out this term. Now, listen, Sean McDonald had 3,714. Wasn't a bad run. Wasn't a bad run at all. Now, again, I think there are some on the Republican side that didn't vote for him, and some on the independents that probably didn't vote for him because, other reasons. But does it constitute another run? I think so. I mean, Sean had a good showing. 3,700 votes for a first time running is pretty good. It's pretty good. So if I'm Sean's supporters, I'm preparing for 2 years. I'd be preparing because he garnered enough support to absolutely make another run at it. If I'm in Elaine's camp, I'm telling her that's about it. That's a wrap. And again, that could be for different reasons. Whether it was the DUI from a couple of years that did it. Maybe. But if I was to say, that'd be a wrap for that one. But for Sean McDonald, good showing. He should look at running. He should probably, if he's looking at just numbers, he should take a run at it in 2 years. I don't know if he'd have my support yet in those 2 years, but if I saw some things differently, maybe. But as of right now, no. But just looking at pure numbers and putting my personal stuff aside, then, just looking at numbers, yeah. Republicans should look to throw him again. So, and then we got the Board of Ed. And this one's interesting. So, Rob Kaczynski, 4,223. So he was the top vote getter. And then you had Hayes. Hayes was 3,971. Ant Martorelli, 3,735. And Riddle, 3,645. So those are the 4 winners as of they are right now. Obviously, there is a recount going for Hernandez and Riddle. Hernandez gets 36-16, and then Riddle gets 36-45. And I will say this, and we're going to toot our own horn there. Riddle, you were welcome. Riddle, you were very welcome because you had a lot of Republican votes. You and Hayes had a lot of Republican votes that came out and voted for you. Now, I didn't vote for Hayes. So let me just put that out there. I did not vote for Hayes. We already talked about that last week. I voted for Riddle, I voted for Scarlett, and I voted for Elmer Gonzalez. Those are my 3 that I picked. I didn't pick a 4th because I didn't like any of the other ones. And we talked about that. Hayes just had too many conflict of interest. Hernandez, listen, It's still all about her. Even in her thing after the election, it was still all about her. It's like, what the frig? It's not all about you. And I think that's one thing. If anything else, any candidate I talk to, I tell them immediately, lose that freaking words. Me, lose it. Because it's not about you. It's about us. It's about the community. It's about everyone as a whole. Hernandez says I 1,000 times throughout a speech. It's not about you. It's about what you're willing to do for everybody. And it's who you're getting behind you to come and help you get there. So, again, Republicans will hold on to the Board of Ed. I believe it's 5-4 now. So we'll see what happens. We're still going to be keeping track of what's going on over at the Board of Ed. Again, to me, the Board of Ed is the most corrupt department in the entire city. And I was hoping we were going to chop the head off the snakes and we were going to get rid of Kaczynski. I want to get rid of Benigni. And let's rebuild our Board of Ed. And in 2 years, we'll be having the same conversation. Because I saw the same issues with every other Board of Ed member that's still out there. Well, they'll need to go next. Unless things drastically improve over the next 2 years. But I don't see that happening. I don't see it. I see it's business as usual. I think it's just going to be business as usual. I'm hoping that people like Riddle, people like Hayes, will start pushing back and start being more transparent. Because no one else on the Board of Ed wants to be transparent. So I am going to hope and pray that Hayes and Riddle are going to turn around and tell the people what's going on and fight back. Maybe get some answers to questions we've been asking that the Board of Ed has been dead silent on. How are we allowing thieves to steal city money and be able to retire and get a pension? How is that possible? These are all things that are going to need to be answered. And I'm hoping Riddle and Hayes has the backbone to bring it out and bring it to light and hold people accountable for what they've done. And then we have city clerk. And this one just absolutely blows my mind. How this is even a close race mind boggles me. You have someone in Cardona, again, and I find it disgusting that the only reason why, and I'm convinced to this, and no one could tell me different, the only reason why he even came close in this race is because of his last name. That's it. People saw Cardona, and they think immediately to the Cardona family of Miguel Cardona, Hector Cardona, and Hector Cardona Jr. I honestly believe that's where their mind goes. And they think that he is part of them. But Democrats used it. Because he is the most unqualified person to run the city clerk's office. He is not qualified. Most people, I don't think, realize what the city clerk's office does. And how extremely important it is to the city. And to have someone with absolutely zero experience, doesn't even know the job. This shouldn't even, first of all, it shouldn't even be an elected position. But this is going to turn. This could quickly turn into a clusterfuck for the city of Meriden. You have someone who knows nothing about the office, is about to run it. And we're taking someone with 20-something years experience and just throwing it aside. It's crazy to me. Now, there are that many people in this city that don't understand the vital importance of the city clerk's office. But Monday, there is a recount. So tomorrow at 9 a.m. it starts. And there are going to be two races that are doing recounts. One is the city clerk's race. There's a 27 vote difference between the two, with Cardona leading by 27. And then we have the Board of Ed is going to be a recount. That's going to be mostly between Riddle and Hernandez. And I'm praying, my fingers are crossed for you, Riddle. I'm praying for you. I'm hoping you can hold on to it. But overall, only 27%. 27% of eligible voters voted. There are 29,748 registered voters in the city of Meriden. 7,973 voted. That's pathetic. That is sad and pathetic that only that many people came out and voted. But yet, everybody will come out and vote in a presidential election. A presidential election that, let's be honest with each other, doesn't really affect your life all that much. A city election affects you so much more. And how the voters weren't absolutely outraged by the tax assessor debacle, by the city manager debacle. How none of them were worried about it because you came and voted for the same people who allowed it to happen. You came out and voted for the same people that just allowed all this stuff to happen to you. It's absolutely craziness to me. You can't bitch and complain. And all these people I see on social media, between all the groups and the tens of thousands of people that I'm, just shows that you don't vote. But you'll bitch and complain all day long. We don't see change if you don't go out and vote. And the fact that 27% of eligible voters voted, for whatever reason that is, if you're just feeling defeated, we need people that could get these people motivated to vote. Because a lot of these people feel their vote doesn't matter. When clearly it does. Look how close these races are. These races are razor thin. And if you come out and vote for a presidential election, but won't come out and vote for a local election, You're just harming yourself. Like I said, a local election has a much more direct effect on your life and your pocketbook than any national election. But listen, like I said, that's why we have elections. And that's why I love it. That's why I love Election Day. Because it is a chance for a rebirth. It's a chance and an opportunity for everyone to come out, make your voices heard, and institute change if you want. Obviously, in the city of Meriden, we're not at that point yet. Maybe they need a little bit more pain and suffering. Well, that is probably what you're going to get over the next couple of years. As they continue to raise your taxes, they continue not to hear your voice because they don't care about your voice. And they spend your money. Those are the things that I can promise you you're going to get over the next 2 years. But the people have spoken. And elections do have consequences. But I don't want to hear people bitching and complaining online. Did you vote? Most likely you did not. Most likely you did not. But congratulations to all the winners. Except for Rhodey. You're still a piece of shit. And like I said, hopefully it's the last time we're going to see him on a ballot. For whatever reason, I don't care which one it is. Just as long as he's not on a ballot. We'll continue to fight here. We'll continue to hold their feet to the fire. We'll continue to point out the nonsense and the hypocrisy. Especially what we're seeing now. And we'll probably be talking about in the near future with the police department. Because they still have a lot of answering to do for that. But like I said, the election's over. We have our elected officials. We'll see where they go. We'll see where it goes from here. But on that note, it's been a long day. Hopefully everyone had a nice Sunday. We'll catch you for another show next Sunday. Then we'll probably be breaking for the rest of the year until after the new year. And then we'll get into other things, what we're going to do next year. So we will meet again here next week. We'll talk about my conversation with Chief Rosado that will take place this week. And we'll talk about the path forward on that and what we're going to look for in a new city manager will be interesting because obviously that process is going to have to start. And then we're going to talk about charter reform. That's what I wanted to talk about. We're going to talk about charter reform next week. So, as always, guys, I love each and every one of you. I thank you guys all for joining us tonight. Listen, for those of you who won, congratulations. For those of you who lost, listen, you fought a hell of a fight. You went out there and you did what you needed to do. You did what you needed to do. Now we start looking to next year. Obviously, you have state races. You have a big presidential race coming up. So we'll talk about that after the new year. But until then, guys, as always, I love you. God bless you. And obviously, God bless this amazing city of ours, and God bless this country. Until next time, until next Sunday, I will see you all later.
And the million faces formed together, made for elevation. And the soldiers soldier won't surrender. Faith is like a fire that never burns to embers. The voice of the unheard.